that came after started worshipping as God, those images or those statues as God. And people forgot what the original purpose of those statues were, to venerate good man of old times. So the later generation started worshiping them. From that, we've been commanded by God not to make graven images, a command which you also find in the Bible, that you should not make any graven image in the skies, earth, or in the sea. So it's not something which is unique for Islam. In fact, if anyone knows anything about early Christianity, the first 3 centuries, you won't find any imagery. You will find symbolism, like the fish. You will find the fish, you will find the different forms of the cross. So this idea of imagery isn't something unique to Islam. It was all religions, including Judaism. What happens is a process called Hellenization. You know what Hellenization is? Okay. When you live in England, you're Sikh, you're Indian originally, right? So when you live in here, what happens? When you're in Rome, you do as the...
Not everybody does that though here.
Oh, you're not... Well, do you believe you're doing that? To what extent do you do it? Do you leave your Sikhism?
No, I don't.
So why do you retain your identity?
Sorry?
Why is it that you retain your identity?
But
How do you pick and choose?
No. It's not a question of picking and choosing. Obviously, things evolve. Cultures evolve. We can't live like... I can't live like 500 years ago at the time of Guru Nanak. It was a different time.
In what sense? What's wrong with Guru Nanak for you?
None.
That you can't live like him?
No, what I'm saying is, this is a different time, a different place. So things evolve, times evolve. We didn't have this technology, for instance, right? We didn't have social media. We didn't have all these different ways of dealing with, our carnal sins.
So I'll just finish the first point that you're making about imageries anyway, yeah? So the point is that we don't draw it, but when other people draw it, we know the intention of the... One second. That's up to them. They're not...
You have a go at the Shias.
You're asking me or you're arguing with me? Okay. We do have discussions with them. Have you looked for it? Then you can see, we debate. Listen, what's your name? What's your name?
My Nat.
My Nat.
Nat,
yeah? What's your name? Michael. Hamza, nice to meet you. Okay, Nat, listen, yeah? We always have theological discussions with Shia all the time about every single topic. You can find this online about so it's, but because you haven't been looking at it, you can't say where. It's like me coming here is, where's the whale? Whales don't exist. One second. No, I'm answering, but because if you answer it, I told you my answers sometimes are long. But let me finish this 1 second, and you can. I'll just for the flow of discussion, yeah. And it's goodwill, as in I'm not here to make you look small.
I'm not going to argue with you.
You can if you but.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, debate is argue. I like discussions. Yeah. But like if I come here and say, where's the whale? The whale doesn't exist. It'd be ridiculous. I'd have to go to the sea. Likewise, these discussions about image. Likewise, these discussions about the image of the Prophet Muhammad or any of the prophets, it takes place not just in Shiism, in Sunni Islam as well. So now, yes, it does.
Saudi Arabia?
Of course.
I know they have it in the Kaaba. They have images of Muhammad.
No, they don't. Where do you get it? No, they don't. 100%. You could Google it if you have the internet now. You're free to do so. I'm 100% sure. Okay. Anyway.
So in the can I ask you something?
By the way, I'm fasting, yeah, so my lips are going to become dry very quickly.
You know the Shia mosques here in the West?
Let me finish the first question, yeah? Right. It's the last point, yeah?
Yeah. The Shia mosques
I'll get to that one.
West,
yeah.
Do they have images of Muhammad in the West?
In the Shia ones, yeah, but we're not Shia, we're Sunni.
But then, if they're allowed to have it in the West, I don't understand what is the difference.
Do you know the difference? Okay.
Drawing
is Sikhism an off branch of Hinduism?
No, it isn't. No.
Okay, was it independent religion?
It's an independent religion, yeah.
It never came off the back of like Hinduism?
No. I mean, Guru Nanak said there's no Hindu, there's no Muslim, there's only man.
I know, but I mean...
He was born a high caste Hindu. He rejected Hinduism because of the caste system and the misogyny and religious...
The point I'm trying to say is that there's branches of different things within everything. So like Sikhism, I think it branched off Hinduism. We could argue about that. But the point is that you can't... Is that George, yeah? George, where are you going?
There's a lot in common.
Wa alaikum, how are you? You can't compare Mormonism Christianity with mainstream Christianity. You can't compare Shiaism with Sunniism. You have to understand there's different types of secularism, there's different types of atheism, there's different types of political stances. You can't say, why do we have this diversity? Because people are so diverse. So the next question is that why is that we take offense when other people not just draw? Your question is caricature. We have to be careful about our words. These aren't merely drawings without the intent to offend. Now, if George, and he would never do that, came here to try to offend me and became aggressive, came up to my face, then what would happen? Forget them. I had a good discussion with George last time, actually. And what's going to happen? If I come to you, push you, and start, what will I expect if you get angry? So if someone makes caricatures of your mom, God forbid, I even like talking like this, you will get upset if you love your mom. Unfortunately, in the Western world, moral has been decaying in many aspects. We don't stand up for those things we love. And we don't love anything more as Muslims than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Same way you love your mom and won't let her be respected, we won't allow it either to the extent that we can within the law. And in Christianity, it used to be the same thing. And that's when Christianity was strong. Unfortunately, what's happened is, George, and I'm sure you agree, we would support you in the strength of your Christianity rather than the strength of your atheism. We would prefer you to be real Christian.
Muhammad a black man? He just said Muhammad is a black
No,
man.
Muhammad was an Arab. It depends what he means by. No, don't get engaged. He's one book short of a library. Ignore him. The Prophet Muhammad was an Arab. He was an Arab. He was from the tribe of Quraysh. My man. All right. Okay. Next question is, don't bring in loads of people. Trust me.
I don't even know.
So did you understand? Do you understand about the caricature? There's a difference between drawing and caricature.
I understand your point. But I'm still a bit confused because why the Shias even in the West have it.
That's up to them. They have different. They don't follow a half.
Having it in the West.
No,
Like there might be a Shia,
but they're not trying to offend. Do you understand? People swear all the time. People swear all of the time, right? Yeah. But if they swear at you, no. If they look. If they one second. If George swears all the time, and again he's a good man, he would never swear. But if he swears at me, it's a different thing. Next question. Get your own table. Okay, come. Remember, the conversation is gonna go crazy. Where are you going, George, man? Come see me afterwards. Okay, what are the questions?
Okay, so I'm still a little bit confused by that. I understand the point you're trying to make. So, in terms of...
Now that's what they deny, the Sunnis, the Salafis, the Wahhabis.
What do you say to the people, certain Muslims who say that they want, say, a caliphate
in England? Okay, this is saying... No problem. Okay, then. Okay, so how many people actually call for this? We know who. It was a small group who were propped up by the BBC. Anjem Chowdhury was put on the TV for so many years, and everyone has been arrested, but he wasn't arrested. Why? Because it's a tool for dividing people. We have to be honest. He was pitted against Tommy Robinson, again, who was not representative of the majority of people. Yeah, I understand. White people, British people have qualms with things like immigration. That includes you as a Sikh, not just me as a Muslim. Do you understand? And they want identity. They have the right to have identity. But who controls the politics and the borders? It's not the Muslim. Who controls your banking systems? Who controls if you get a house or if you get a loan? Who controls if you have inflation? It's not the Muslims. It's not the Sikhs. But who does Tommy Robinson work for? Who does he work for?
I don't know.
The English and Jewish Defense League. Well, he gets paid in shekels, so he would never speak about Jews. Because if you do, you get castrated, you get marginalized. You can say anything you want about Muslims, you can. The Western media American media continuously berating Muslims, particularly after 9/11. Candace Owens, one of these far-right talkers, pundits, she was saying this. She said that she believed at that time 9/11 was done by the Muslims. She now champions a different thought. But at that time, she said that she had berated Muslims, and she apologizes for this. Why? Because she herself knows as an American it's perfectly fine to berate Muslims in the media and be racist as well. and get away with it. You cannot do that with all types of people, can you?
It's not racism, is it?
It's a trope. You know what a trope is?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you know, to question and criticise
Yeah.
Islam doesn't make an individual a racist.
I never said
because
this.
it's questioning the religion.
yeah.
But a lot of times people who question or point out things in Islam that they might not be happy with immediately get called a racist. Me,
You're right.
primarily for being a white Englishman, if I question Islam, I get called racist. I'm not a racist person. Islam isn't a race. It encompasses all kinds of people.
Let me speak to that, yeah? Okay, first and foremost, I understand Islam is not a race. It encompasses all types of people from diverse nations and countries and backgrounds, and there's plenty of white English people who are Muslims. So when we say that people can be racist against Islam, what do we mean? If, for example, I say to you that there's a there are thugs walking around, is there any imagery that gets conjured in your brain? Of course, if I say there are thugs walking around, is there any racial connotations? If I say there is one second, let me finish the point. Yeah, if I say, oh, those pigs, you know exactly what I'm saying. I'm making racial connotations. Now, when people say, for example, terrorists, this imagery that's being brought up in your head, it might not be straight, oh, he's a P or he's a D or he's a whatever. It might not be name calling directly, but we know how tropes work. I'm not one of those woke type of people. I don't think most people are racist, and I think they have we all joke around about races actually. There was a time 20 years ago, people used to stand on the podiums here and make racist jokes. And we used to be men about it and say, oh, whatever, he doesn't mean it maliciously. We make jokes within our people. You make jokes within your people. But we become so sensitive. Why? Who's causing all of this friction? Ask yourself this. Now, I understand white people, particularly white males, have a hard time expressing themselves. Yeah? Why is that? Is your problem...
I think it's because we feel restrained
Yes,
at the moment.
yes.
As a white British person, I feel like, restrained in what I can say.
100%.
If I put a point of view across, I will be labelled supporting Tommy Robinson.
Yeah.
I'll be labelled as a
racist.
drunkard.
EDL.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of white British people feel that way.
Okay.
That we can't speak freely.
Okay.
Because there's a restraining order on us.
Now,
And it
I
shouldn't be
understand
that way.
this.
We should all be able to speak freely, even if you.
And
don't
that's
agree
why I
with me.
opened this topic for you. Yeah?
We need to discuss things
Exactly.
in an open way. But
This-
in
this-
this country, it is changing.
Yeah, so this is the reason I opened this topic, because I know people like yourself can't talk about this topic, and that's why I'm opening the topic for people like you. But the problem isn't with Muslims that you have. In fact, everything that you need is you need stable jobs, you need good housing, you need wives. You don't need feminism and high sexuality and salaciousness. You want wives. You want your children to be your children, not the council's children. You want to be able to discipline your children in a way that reflects your morality, not someone else's or another institute's, right? It's not just identity. It's not just being white. Identity is extremely important, but there are multiple things that are taken away from the being of the white person or the white Englishman, yeah, that he cannot, one second, that he cannot express himself. Your focus, unfortunately, is zoomed into one thing only. Ask yourself, in Islam, everything you are asking for, in regards to identity, in regards to strength against feminism, LGBT, your wife being your wife, your manliness and your children, Islam is what gives it to you. You are dying because why? You need identity. You want to be able to sit about people where you can speak a common language and have a common understanding. But Christianity used to give you that, right or wrong? It used to. You had communal places like churches. After the fall of Christianity, you had communal places like pubs. Now, pubs are closing down because people just simply don't have money because of capitalism and many other factors. There's white flight as well, and there's a high level of immigration. Again, it's not Muslims' fault. I understand everything you're saying, but what you're asking for is something to fill that vacuum in. I'm telling you that vacuum to be filled in is Islam. It gives you brotherhood, it gives you cohesion and adhesion.
Not for everybody, though. This is because
No.
we live in a democracy where people should be allowed to choose
Yes,
what they want.
yes.
No disrespect.
No, no.
Sometimes I feel that Islam can be very forceful in what it wants and in the way it presents itself. Now, I'm not disrespecting you.
Look, speak
But
freely.
Do you see what I mean? Sometimes
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are scared of Islam because of how it presents itself.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
you know, not
Okay.
inherently a bad
So what's your name again?
practice, Michael.
Mike, understand, you're a smart man. Don't take things in vacuum or out of context. The world has been a disastrous place for the last hundreds of years or so. It's been marred with wars. And the people that are being killed are the ones that are being made to be blamed. And the ones who are doing the killing are the victims. That's the truth. Why do you think these people are so hot-headed? When Algerians, for example, had 1 million Algerians killed, the French didn't care. When Africa was carved up by British and the French colonial empires, they didn't care. When Arabia was carved up, Sykes and Pickett's, they didn't care. You think you take people's homes, kill their women, bomb them, and they won't be upset. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. 20 years worth of... Last point I make. Afghanistan, 20 years worth of war. American YouTubers are now going into the country. Can you imagine if I had bombed England for 20 years and I came in and I was well received by the people? This is what we're seeing. YouTubers are being well received in places like Afghanistan. After bombing them, killing their children, their women and everything. So understand they're human like you, Michael. They're human. They bleed like you. So have some passion for them and understand they're humans that cry. They need love.
What do you think?
Do you understand? But we dehumanize them and say, you're not human. We can bomb the crap out of you. And then come back 20 years later.
This is governments that do it. This isn't the people on the street. This
Okay,
isn't me.
Michael,
This isn't him
so
over
far,
there. These are governments.
Yeah,
that are
Michael, so
implementing
far,
these
Michael.
practices, Not me.
Okay,
Not him.
I'll catch up on you. Say. So far, what I've been saying, I've been very reasonable. I've been accommodative of what your stance as a white person is. Do you agree? Okay, I've thought about these things, not greatly, but when I think pretty fast, yeah, not in any particular place.
I've got a couple of questions to ask you.
Okay. Sorry, what was that? I just lost my train of thought. Okay, go on.
Right, 2 questions.
No, what was the point you made? What was the point you just made?
The point I made was, you're saying that we as...
Oh, it's elitist. Okay. Okay, the underlying tone in everything that I've been saying is not that it's white people, it's elitist.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if you caught that.
This thing with the British Empire, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
My family aren't British Empire. My family came from poor families in the north of England.
Okay.
Mining towns.
And you didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. So I understand. So people try to blame. Yeah. So people typically, again, it's understanding. Michael, it's understanding. The white working class person, the miners, the people that work on the rails, they work hard, even up to today. These blue collar job guys, they're working their off. And they don't get any thanks from anyone. In fact, they're made to feel so lowly. The bricklayer who's making your house. All of these guys work hard. And we just overlook them all of the time. The working class in every single nation, is oppressed. And the British people, sorry, I'm going to get it. The British people are not responsible entirely. What it meant is white colonialism is a very particular type of white. The Irish were not included in white. The people who had a particular accent, unless it was received pronunciation, you weren't considered as white. What white meant back then is not what white means now. White now is much, much more inclusive. And we as a people need to know that. But the problem is, Michael, is that you have that thinking whether you know it or not, you are a recipient or some kind of benefits of the colonial actions there, the way the roads are paved and the institutions and everything. And so am I, because I live here. So there's not that much different. And you do have more privileges than me, but I'm not one of those wokest. I'm not that wokest type of person. I don't care. So be it. That's the way of empires. One day it's the British, one day it's the people from Belgium or Holland.
That kind of white privilege thing is a little bit old hat now, because maybe in the 80s, 70s, the 80s...
Have you travelled the world?
Yes, I have. It was more prevalent at
Which
that
countries
time.
have you been?
I've where have I been? India, Nepal.
You've been in India, Nepal.
Egypt,
Be honest, be
Morocco.
honest. When you was in India, Nepal, what treatment did you as a white British man get?
It depends.
What do you think this guy, what treatment do you think this guy would get
It depends.
in
I
India?
experienced a lot of racism.
Yeah, yeah.
As a whole,
Yeah.
I love India.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic
Yeah,
country
yeah,
and the people are really, really nice. But of course,
Yeah.
there's going to be
Believe me,
elements of racism.
I work
I've had
with a lot
people
of-
spit in my path when
Yeah,
I'm walking.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm not saying.
But there are
India is
privileges.
Like, India is like India. I love India. You know, it's one
Yeah.
of my favourite countries I've been to. But racism against white people does exist there.
I agree.
And I think that
And they
goes
can't
back
say
again to the
nothing.
British-
And they can't
the
say
British
nothing, can they?
Empire, you know,
They
it's-
can't say that. But it wasn't the working class white guys, was it? They didn't have a pot to piss in or window to throw out. I know this. Look at the Irish. No dogs, no blacks, no Irish. It wasn't just people of colour. It was everyone was getting done. But
You
one
understand
small...
that I got an Irish name just because I got an Irish name.
Yeah, double
Back in
barrel
the
names.
70s,
You had to hide the name.
Kelly, Irish. You know,
Exactly. I know this.
It's your dad in the IRA. These are things that you used to have at school.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
So can I ask you a couple of quick questions?
He wants to, he's desperate to ask you. Let me know.
Right, are you ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So on Afghanistan, I just wanted to know your views on how they're treating women there, the
Yeah,
Taliban.
yeah, sure.
Secondly, you know, like you talked about the West, and yeah, there's a lot of problems in the West. We talked about the British Empire. I wanted to ask you, do you know about the Mughal Empire, what they did in India?
Yeah. Oh, let's
In the
ask
name of
one
Islam,
question.
in the
Let's
name of
ask one question at a time.
Okay, so
So what was the first one?
The first one was
Okay,
on
women in the
Afghanistan.
thing. Okay, first point of colonization, whether you know or not, and whether you mean to do it, and this is what I mean about these things we do, almost instinctively and subconsciously we don't realize, is attack women of a country, and this is like the salvific white person, not white you, like as in the elitist empire, British white of that time, used to do. They will go around countries say that you women are oppressed, not just Muslim countries, India, Sati Burma, exactly. They made the women go against their men and feel like a hatred for the men, and they do the same thing in Afghanistan. Imagine Afghanistan's economy. Imagine Afghanistan's economy is broken, and you're talking about women going to school. What schools, moron? There's no schools left there. Do you understand? What jobs? Hear me, but one second. We're talking about real life, practical, pragmatic things. Just understand. We're talking about we're talking about
There's education
yeah.
for men, for
Yeah,
males,
yeah.
but there's no education
Okay.
for women.
So
There
let's
are
slow
schools.
Let's slow down. Yeah, because trust me, you can speak about this. It was agrarian culture. You know what that is? It means it's not industrialized. It means a lot of labor-heavy work. Why is it that you don't see women bricklayers here? You're pushing for women's rights all of a sudden. Why is it that they're not strong enough?
Well, I know that's a
Do you see?
bad thing to say.
No, it's
Jeremy,
the
some
truth, but
women
you're
are.
scared to say
Some
it.
women are.
You're scared to
You
say
know,
it.
you get
You've been
these-
made to be scared to say it.
As a whole, women aren't built for that.
Why don't they do roofing?
Because it is-
Why don't they do operate heavy machinery, oil mining, oil refining, coal work? Why are you talking about women's work in agrarian cultures where it's not industrialized? Okay, so now you pay for, imagine in a poor, poverty-stricken country, I'm paying for education for my daughter. I could barely have it. You put this in real context, yeah, not in a fake context. I could barely feed my family after 20 years of war. After war with the Russians, after war with the Americans. And you, from outside, are
Where's your
continuing.
family from?
I'm not Afghanistan. I'm just saying as in.
Oh, okay. Well, where is your family from? You know what I'm saying?
It's Asian, we're Asian.
Pakistan?
No. Leave that. I'll tell you afterwards. But okay, so you understand, when you talk about theoretical, oh, why can't women get into education? Sounds great. But when you realize there's no labor local force or institution set up, it's not like there's Marks and Spencer's and Sainsbury's and women can walk everywhere. No, we're talking about a country which is ravaged. And this is why I'm saying this colonial mentality where people say things like this, but don't understand the reality of the situation. So if your country in the initial stages of being developed, needed workforce, would you choose women or would you choose men, Michael?
Depending on what sort of work it was. No, it is. It depends on.
Okay, what work
If
would
you're talking about manual work,
Yeah.
obviously,
Okay.
you know, I'd probably get shot down for saying this, but I'd go with male workforce for construction.
Okay.
for that kind of
And that's
work.
what we're
But
talking,
not to say that women
reconstructing.
can't do work, you know,
Like what?
Like nursing, administration.
But what makes you say that they are not Muslim nurses? What makes you say that? This is what I'm saying. You lot have got, understand, this is what I'm saying. You lot don't realize the problems you have in your mentality.
hang on a second. I'm
No,
asking you.
no, but
Have
you
heard
came
of
in.
Boko Haram in
One second.
Nigeria?
I'll come
They're
to
against
it. No, let's not
education.
jump because it really,
linked.
we really.
I do believe that women should have the opportunity to educate themselves.
I do agree as well. Some of the greatest scholars in Islam were Muslim women. You read that. Yes, but we're talking about reality on a war-torn country. First thing you're talking to them about when they can barely feed themselves is women's rights. It sounds ridiculous, and you know it sounds ridiculous.
I'm not an advocate.
All right.
Yeah, now you're not an
I'm
advocate. Exactly, but when it comes to attacking Islam, you do become an advocate. That's what I mean. And you don't realize, Michael. This is what I'm saying. And when I'm standing here, I understand you're working class white man who hasn't taken the benefits of colonialism or what the 1% do. I understand that. But you can't have that same insight for people in other countries like Muslim countries.
Islamic countries, women are repressed. It's a fact.
Okay.
Why is that?
Okay, be specific. Be specific.
Oh, of course, but
Be
to a
specific.
different level.
Be
you know,
specific.
a different level of suppression.
Okay. Now, because so now, as the gentleman was saying, imagine you don't understand how the Western world is seen from the eyes of someone outside of the Western world. They can equally look into the Western world and say, hold on, these women, they're being forced to go on OnlyFans to take off their clothes and they're being sexualized and objectified and they're 1 in every 3 men is raping them. Do you understand how it sounds? It sounds like you're a savage. This same propagandistic style can be done on any country coming from outside. And this is how war started, because you were led by the BBC to believe that these...
I ain't been led by the BBC.
Many people are. But Michael, but you realize you're champion in this... You're champion many of these thoughts and ideologies without even realizing. I don't mind. This is how we change things when we're talking. I can see in your eyes you understand everything I'm saying.
Of course, I can relate to what you're saying, but I still think that, regardless of who we are, what we are, male, female, Christian, Muslim, Sikh, everybody should be treated equally.
Okay, so let me answer. I just come from Saudi, yeah? Now, women are chauffeured everywhere. They're allowed to drive. They're chauffeured everywhere. Do you know why it was banned?
I don't know.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You don't realize.
So why?
That's what I'm saying. But you should have asked yourself. What's the name again?
I've never been there.
Nah. You should. That's what I'm saying. Because you came here to debate, remember? And I said let's discuss. The reason is because we need to understand what the underlying reasons are. Because travel, particularly in nomadic societies, for women is extremely dangerous. And that's why in Islam you hear things about the way traveler. The traveler is always given, like you have to be hospitable to them. Anyone who travels distances particularly can be robbed by bandits, killed, they could be eaten by animals, hyenas, whatever it is. So there is a legacy that it comes from. And the same thing happened in the UK as well. It was taboo for women to be, but the thing is, you lot forget overnight. Many things were taboo. We came from an agrarian culture. We were farmers once upon a time. With the industrialization with these countries, we changed over time, but we forgot where we come from, and then we cast judgment on these other countries without applying even an iota of thought. So yes, women were banned from once upon a time driving, and the main thing was their safety. And this comes in the books of jurisprudence.
They're only allowed to go out with a male guardian in Saudi Arabia.
Are you asking me, or it sounds like you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking.
Yeah, good. What else you wasn't tell me?
Be honest with us. The thing is you think that the average Westerner, right, the average British male has never read the Quran. No, I'm just... He's in the conversation.
Are you asking me, or you sounds like you're telling me off, isn't it?
No, I'm just interested.
Don't ask me, but don't tell me off, okay? That's rude.
It seems to me that most Muslims here have the idea that most British men or European men, that we don't have any understanding of your religion, that we know nothing about your situation, that we know basically nothing about how you live, all your beliefs, right? This is the kind of understanding. You think that you're teaching us something we don't know, but we actually do know, because we've lived in this world, right? I've myself lived in the Middle East for 10 years.
Where?
Right? I lived in Sudan, Khartoum, under the time of Dr. Al-Turabi. Right? And Turabi, actually, I knew him because I taught his family English literature.
Okay, great.
So I spent a lot of time with Turabi, the terrorist. I've spent a lot of time in
You're working for him
Israel.
all.